10 times fighters refuse to hit their opponent. In everyday life, avoiding a physical confrontation is regarded as taking the higher ground. When it comes to combat sports, however, refusing to fight just isn't an option. With that being said, there have been a few unforeseen circumstances in the ring that have forced one or both fighters to stop hitting their opponent. From those showing mercy to others who ran off scared, in today's video, we will show you 10 fighters who refuse to hit their opponent. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way, you will never miss one of our future fight-related videos. Number 10. Khalib Starnes vs. Nate Quarry. During UFC 83 back in 2008, fans were given a bizarre spectacle as Khalib Starnes refused to fight his opponent, Nate Quarry, deciding to run away instead. Initially, no one knew why Starnes didn't try and land a single hit, but it was later discovered that he had expressed his concern for the fight, stating that he wasn't in the same league as his opponent. Not only did his cowardly act lose him the fight, but it also lost him his career in the UFC, as he was let go soon after and was never able to return. Maybe he should have called in sick with a stomach bug like the rest of us do. Number 9. Carlos Monzon vs. Rodrigo Valdez. The second time Carlos Monzon and Rodrigo Valdez faced off in the ring happened to be their last. Throughout the fight, there were multiple moments that Monzon was holding back against the exhausted Valdez, even initiating locks to give him time to recover. There was one moment in particular that showed Monzon's compassion, which can only be described as one of the greatest displays of sportsmanship in boxing. As Valdez stumbled forward into the corner of the ring, unable to defend himself, Monzon decided to stop fighting to allow his opponent to recover his footing. Despite going easy on Valdez in the later stages of the fight, Monzon still won by unanimous decision. Number 8. Willis Mian vs. Liami Tato. Referees are put in the ring not only to make rulings on a fight, but also to prevent severe or life-threatening injury coming to a fighter. Well, when Willis Mian came up against Liami Tato in the heavyweight division, it was clear that Mian was boxing circles around his opponent. In fact, by the end of the first round, Tato could barely stand. Regardless of his condition, the ref decided that he could continue. In the second round, Mian landed more powerful punches that were turning Tato into a human punching bag. After a barrage of punches in the corner, Mian was clearly relieved that he could stop fighting, even screaming at the ref that he should have done his job earlier. As the boxers left the ring, Mian didn't hide the anger he felt for the ref, who would have rather seen Tato taken away in an ambulance. Number 7. Stipe Miocic vs. Alistair Overeem. When Stipe Miocic stepped into the octagon, he expected to fight, not run a marathon. Although Overeem did try and avoid a lot of the fighting, he did manage to fire off a few hits, knock Miocic down, and even get him into a guillotine between sprints. Eventually, Miocic managed to catch his prey and unleashed a series of devastating punches that ensured he couldn't get back up to run off again. Number 6. Michael Ayers vs. Wayne Rigby. In what was voted the best British fight of the year 2000, Michael Ayers and Wayne Rigby displayed some very impressive boxing skills. By the 10th round, however, Rigby had been devastated by a number of powerful right hands that had left the boxer badly hurt. During the match, Ayers asked the ref to stop the fight, but he refused. Eventually, Rigby admitted defeat, and Ayers accepted Rigby's plea to stop the fight to prevent any further harm coming to him. To display that level of compassion to a man he was fighting showed a lot about the character of Michael Ayers and the compassion he had for a fellow fighter. Number 5. Derek Lewis vs. Francis Ngannou. UFC fans were left with nothing but disappointment when the much-hyped fight between Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou turned out to be one of the most boring heavyweight fights in the history of the sport. Both fighters seemed too timid to fight, dancing around each other. Derek Lewis did make a few half-hearted strikes, but they were so slow that his opponent saw them coming a mile off. If that wasn't bad enough, Ngannou chose to bounce around the block instead of throwing any punches. With only 30 seconds to go, Ngannou seemed to find his courage and began striking, but soon returned to avoiding the fight. Unbelievably, Ngannou struck Lewis again, but only once the horn had been blown. Number 4. Mike Pentenko versus Jeremy Rasner. When MMA fighter Mike Pentenko came up against Jeremy Rasner, it was clear that Pentenko was dominating his opponent. In fact, Rasner was taking a severe beating. To the surprise of everyone watching, however, Pentenko decided to give up and take the loss instead. Later on, he said the reason he surrendered was to save Rasner from any further injury, as it was clear that he wasn't going to stop, regardless of how dire his situation was. It just goes to show that for some people, winning isn't everything. Was this a foolish thing to do or just a display of good sportsmanship? We'd love to know what you think in the comment section below. Number 3. Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. Conor McGregor is certainly a fighter who likes attention, whether it is his trash talking at press conferences or fooling around in the octagon. Well, when he came up against Nate Diaz, the usually brash Irishman seemed a little more timid as he avoided engaging with Diaz for a while, even running away from him. Eventually, McGregor got into gear and won the fight on points. When asked about why he decided to run instead of fight, McGregor said that he was conserving energy in case the fight went the entire 5 rounds. This, of course, was a risky move, as running away can lose a fighter points or even get them disqualified. Number 2. Robbie Peaton versus Nate Campbell. In the 5th round of the Robbie Peaton and Nate Campbell fight, Campbell managed to hit Peaton in the body, badly hurting him. Although it's clear he can't recover, the boxer fights on, taking blow after blow from his opponent. Eventually, feeling as if Peaton was no longer a threat, Campbell completely dropped his arms to stare down his opponent. It soon came apparent that the act was a foolish thing to do, as Peaton fired off a left hand that knocked Campbell out, earning him a surprise victory. The two later met in the ring for a rematch, but Peaton won that also by a technical knockout. Number 1. Ardalan Sheikhoslami versus Andy Souwer. During this fight between Iranian Ardalan Sheikhoslami and Andy Souwer from the Netherlands, the Iranian chose to stay on the defensive, chopping away at his opponent's legs whenever he could. Although both fighters were holding their own throughout, it was in the 4th round that Sheikhoslami decided that Souwer's hits were just not powerful enough, deciding to stop fighting altogether. Unfortunately, he had underestimated the strength of his opponent, who took the opportunity to brutally knock him out. And that concludes our video on 10 fighters who refuse to throw punches in the ring. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see the second part, make sure you subscribe to Brutal TV and ring the notification bell. That way you will get a message telling you when the next part has been uploaded. Thanks for watching.